Back to the
Again,
beginning. Let's go.
rewind selector, the psychology of hex. I am your host, along with your other host. Black Dot Chronicles is the spot. I'm here with Yas Deep. Where you at, Yas Deep?
I'm here. I'm here. What's going on,
Oh man,
man? We just had some technical difficulties, but we in here now. It's all good.
yeah, we here now. So hopefully you guys are still with us. We apologize, and yeah, but we'll make it up. We got a lot to talk about. Um, we are calling this particular section the psychology of hex, where we are going to break down and get into the nuts and bolts of what hex really is about, how it works, the different use cases for hex, and basically how we can use hex in everyday life, and from short term, medium term, and long term. We feel like hex is a tool on the blockchain that has multiple uses with regards to saving, investing long term, and getting high yields back on your return. What do you say about that, Deep?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it changes the way people view the world. It gives them an opportunity and maybe even more so hope for a very good future. Which right now the last thing we have is stability, and to have a high interest rate over time. I think that gives people hope for something like that. That they have something to look forward to.
Yeah, I agree, no doubt. So we're gonna get into all of these things, that the origins of hex. So we'll get into a little clip from Richard Hart himself. We'll let you hear from the man in its own words, and as he describes a couple of main components of hex. Um, we'll also talk about how hex works, just the basic, mechanics of hex. And again, as I said before, we'll also speak about the use cases of hex as well. So first, Yazdeep, since you've been in the game a bit longer than me, why don't you kind of explain to everybody how you entered the hex game, and what really inspired you to put so much energy into hex?
Uh, well, um, my story starts kind of like from having a very independent background. I like to be self-sufficient. I like to think for myself, and I've always kind of bucked the trend kind of guy. Kind of always challenged the status quo, and that goes with anything. And even it's funny to say that, to be in crypto, that I'm challenging the status quo even within side of crypto. That was attractive for me. So when when I got into Bitcoin, that was back in like early or late 2016. It was because gold wasn't doing what I thought it was going to do. And the dollar, I had, all this understanding of how the dollar was basically just being inflated all the time, and that there has to be, there has to be an opportunity somewhere. There's always opportunity, and it has to be somewhere. And the dollar was presenting that best opportunity. And I finally met, uh, this shiny little coin called Bitcoin, and I kind of, I invested pretty heavily in that and Ethereum. I never really got into the other scams that were out there, or any of the other coins that were out there, just a few of them. But I found out about Richard Hart in mid 2017, and the way he kind of spoke, and his charisma, his enthusiasm, his like in your face attitude, and kind of challenging the status quo. It's very much in line with how I am and my personality, and the way I think. And so I always have like a litmus test for like bullshit, right? And he just, he kept like, he would say all the right things and then push it further. I'm like, oh damn, I didn't think about it that way, right? And so I'd be like, okay, I'm on board with you up until here, but then he would push the needle and add that another 20% of information that I didn't have. And I'm like, okay, this guy's onto something. And so since then, I've been rocking with him. Then when he finally developed Hex, I knew before it launched that I was going to end up going all in. But I didn't do it the first day. I did OMA a little bit, but over time, I just knew the thing was sound, that it had been audited, that it was a complete project, immutable, the fact that you can't change the code. Those things were attractive. It fixed all the things that Bitcoin was, supposed to do. but then it also is designed for HODL. You know, the HODL, HODL is like the thing in crypto, but that's what Hex was designed for. And I'm like, okay, well, if I knew about Bitcoin when it first launched and I could have earned interest on it, why I would have bought Hex, or I would have bought that Bitcoin, right? But that didn't exist. It exists now, and so that's why I was like, I'm gonna go all in. All in. I did, and then I'm like, okay, well now I'm all in, but I need to add value to the community, to not just to myself, but also share my message. And so I was like, okay, well, time for me to start diving in. And actually, it was Crypto Coffee that got me to start my stream. And so this is kind of like me paying it forward, kind of bringing you on to get you started on your. Yeah, I mean, you already do videos and stuff, but like at least as far as Hex goes,
Yeah.
I'm so excited to do this with you because, yeah, I think we've really clicked, and so I'm happy we're here.
Yeah, definitely, man. That's funny because you came into the game way earlier than I did, but I can tell, our enthusiasm is, it's elevated, So that's a good thing because, people feel that way about other coins, but it's kind of hollow. It's more like a wish casting. And that's
Yeah,
the difference from Hex than, a lot of these other coins, especially in the DeFi arena.
yeah,
Again, the plan is so straightforward, but while we, we'll just bounce around, but I heard you say something. And so I just want you to kind of, define a couple of terms for people who may be new to the game,
yeah.
you know. But you mentioned hodler.
Mm,
Can you explain the difference just within the Hex universe, the difference between a trader and a hodler in the Hex universe?
that's a great question. Um, so a trader is someone that uh, let me try to give an honest representation of a trader. So I have a friend, and he's my best friend. Like I've known him since we were little kids, like second grade, right? And he was in kindergarten at the time, so we've grown up together. Uh, he's not into crypto at all, but he does do trading. He does option trades and derivatives and stuff. And I've tried to tell him about crypto, and he just really isn't into it. His thing is, he thinks he can make money, and the derivatives things, it feels real to him, that type of trading. But him, even though I tell him it's a zero sum game, that it's a lot of stress, and you have to constantly be, looking at the markets, and it just takes away, distracts you from your life. And even though I try to explain that to him, he's just really invested in trying to trade because he thinks it'll really set up his future. And I think there is that mentality where people are just, for whatever reason, they've become so convinced that that that's one very good way to make money, and that they're convinced that anybody could do it if they just practice. And I think that also extends to crypto and it extends to Hex. But Hex was designed to disincentivize that trading aspect of it. It was designed to get you to invest in Hex, see the opportunity that's there, but from how good the code is written, how well it's written, and then take it a step further by locking up your coins, by staking your coins. And what that means is once you stake your coins, you're less likely to sell them because there's a very strong possibility you're going to incur penalties, very severe penalties. Well, actually, you will incur a penalty. It just depends on if it's on your principal or on your interest, depending on how much time you served and some other parameters. But um, so because of those penalties, you're disincentivized to want to end stake early. You're incentivized to complete out your promise. So it adds more credibility to you to say, hey, I'm gonna do something, and then you follow through with it. It makes you a better person in that respect. And while you're doing that, you don't have to think about Hex. Like honestly, my thing is I try to go to different industries or different categories within the economy. I try to pick the one or two winners that I really like and then move on. My thing with Hex was, hey, I'm going all in. I'm investing in the long term. I don't want to think about it. I didn't even want to do these streams. I wanted to just hands off, move on to my next adventure, focus my attention elsewhere. But I realized that growing this community was also important, in that I can impact it in other ways, that I don't have to just limit it to Hex. But to get back to your trading thing, is the traders spend all their time staring at a computer, trying to arbitrage situations, and it's a zero-sum game. Somebody wins, somebody loses. With Hex, you can win without somebody having to lose, because you are the person that's in the network creating your own coins and keeping
Mm.
your own promises. And so that just blew me away. Like that's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. So, if Bitcoin belongs to the miners, Hex belongs to the stakers, 100%. The stakers hold the power. And you know what is interesting to me with regards to what you were saying, and the reason why I asked that question, and the reason why, we're even calling this the psychology of Hex, because I just think the design, as you were speaking on, is so eloquent, and it's very organic, and it's almost like if you give this blockchain a personality. Richard Hart definitely kind of embodies like this thing with Hex or whatever. And we'll get into the psychology of Richard Hart as well, because I even said, in these notes, that if you understand the man, you know what I'm saying, then you're definitely going to understand the product 100%. And so the reason why I asked you the difference between traders and hodlers in the Hex ecosystem, because this is something that people really need to understand, even after a big payday. I still see, because I pay attention to this every day when I'm looking at certain stats, but I see these traders, coming in, with big numbers for 7 days, 5 days, 1 day, 27 days and things like that. And you can clearly see that this is not the design for Hex. It's not designed for you to, day trade in and out of. Now, if you're in a position where you can afford to stake, let's say 10 million Hex for 7 days, just to gain, like, whatever fraction of interest that you would get on that, to me, I don't even understand that psychology at all. Like, it just, I don't see, what the difference is. If you have this many coins to mess with, to me, why would you bother staking them for this small amount of time whenever your yield is going to be so insignificant compared to if you just held it for the amount of time to gain the proper yield? But, to each his own. But what is very clear to me is that if you are a hodler, and if you maximize the potential of the design, then you will always benefit. In fact, you really can't lose in that situation. So that's something that was very um, keen as far as my observation when I started looking more deeper into this. And I started looking into how this was the one product that actually looks out for those ones who are truly 100% invested into the product. That's a really unique situation. And that's why before, again, I just, I'm like maybe 2.5 months into Hex. I can't even remember, maybe not even that long, but I came in, just before big payday, maybe a month or so before big payday, month and a half. And since big payday, I've done 15 stakes beyond big payday. I've done 15 stakes since then. So, again, only because I know that this is something that is so clear when you look at the formulas behind it. It's very simple. Behind all of the programs and the numbers and all of the audits and all this stuff like that, it's very simple. If you stick to the plan, you will be rewarded. If you try to game the system, like a lot of traders tried to do with the big payday experiment, all of you got burnt.
Yeah.
I mean, you got what you, or let me put it in an equitable manner. You got exactly what you deserve. And I think I
Yeah.
heard one of the boys say this on the Discord Syndicate as well. Hex gives you exactly what you deserve. That's why I'm saying it's so organic, and it's so it's like the most beautiful flower. When you can watch it bloom, from a seed, and actually be able to take part in the beauty that it is. So from my perspective, that's one of the main key components to me about Hex. If you are a trader, and if you can afford to take those small gains by investing big numbers, then that is allowed within the framework of Hex, but that's not how you will ever maximize your potential.
Yeah, no, I like what you really said about understanding the man makes you understand the product,
Mm,
and you can draw similarities between Richard Hart and Elon Musk. we understand Elon Musk and what drives him and how passionate he is about the all the many things he's invested in, which is a lot. It's not just Tesla, it's not just SpaceX. He has Neuralink, he has his own schools that he started. He has Starlink, which launches internet for around the world for anyone, and so many other things. He has OpenAI, which he launched to create AI systems, and so when you see his passion and how well he executes on it, that's what people rally around. That's a lot of the reason why people are so passionate about Teslas, because they see the passion in Elon Musk, and so I agree with you 100% there. I think in a lot of ways Richard Hart embodies that in the same way, and because he obviously cares so much. The time that he's freeing up for people by allowing them to invest in good products um, will help move society forward, and then help with the innovation to help us live longer, because that's his ultimate goal. And the fact that we know that, it's attractive. It's like, hey, this guy has a really good vision, and I want to support it. And so I agree with you there 100%. And then the other thing you mentioned is like, why would somebody stake for 7 days or something? No matter, doesn't matter how much it is, why would you do small stakes? And it's crazy because the traditional CD market was set up for you to stake 1 to 3 years, very large sums, or whatever you could afford, but reasonably $1,000 or more, right?
Mm.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think eventually it's going to evolve into something like that. But the fact that you can set short stakes, I think could be valuable in the sense that, let's say you have a full ladder set up and everything's complete, but then you have some money coming out. But maybe you take most of the principal, you roll it forward, and you start at the end of the ladder. So let's say you have a ladder out 15 years, and then when your latest stake is maturing, and thank you, lights out. When that latest stake is maturing, that ends. You mint your coins. You put the principal back out 15 years, 5, 5, 5, 5.
Yep.
And then maybe you take the interest and you spread it out over a shorter period of time, because maybe there's some volatility, and you need to do like 7, 30, 7, 14, 30 days, whatever. Just keep extending it out so that that you could. So my strategy with exiting hex, when you are ready to exit, is you pick an amount of hex, and you pick and you pick a timeline, and you stick to it. So no, sorry, you pick a price point and you pick an amount. So let's say you have 100,000 hex. You say, okay, I'm selling 10,000 hex no matter what when it reaches 1 cent. Period. Then I'm
Mm.
selling another 10,000 hex when it reaches 1.5 cents, and so on, and
Right.
just sticking to that. And if you could set up another smaller letter to help you gauge that, then there's some opportunity there. So that was a long-winded answer, but I just wanted to explain how maybe there's some opportunity, but it really shouldn't be your bread and butter to set these small stakes. It should be,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, and this is where you will have to get into a bit of the analytics. And again, Hex is beautiful because this I've never seen a blockchain product that has so many useful tools as Hex. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's no lie, but this is one of the times where you'll have to get into just minimal analytics, and you'll clearly see if you do the numbers proportionally, you're never going to make more money, or you're never going to make more Hex by playing the short game. It's just not designed
Right,
to do that.
right,
So again, proportionally, it doesn't matter if I gave the example of 10 million hex, but even if you had 1,000 hex or 100 million hex, the short game is the short game. Proportionally, you're going to get the
yep,
same. So if you play that game, just understand, if you're new to hex and you're not trying to necessarily be a trader, or if you don't really understand the dynamics of hex, the first thing I would say, as always, you got to do your research. Don't take my word, don't take Deep's word for it. Do your research and come up with your own conclusions. But again, anyone that has you know an elementary level brain and shit like that will see easily that hex is not to be traded for short-term gains. It's just that simple. But real quick, I just want to touch on something, and it's just kind of like a quirky little antidote. But this is kind of, leading into what I'm saying about if you understand the man, do you understand the plan? So
Yeah,
this was maybe
let's do it.
a few weeks ago, and wifey, yo, I'm sure she's probably like a lot of girls and stuff like that. Not all girls, because we do have a deep community of the female representation in Hex as well.
Yeah,
But my wifey, yo, she's just not, whatever. I'm telling her all of this stuff. I'm so excited. She's like, yeah, okay.
yeah,
So I'm showing her like this one clip, and Richard Hart is in the clip or whatever.
yeah,
And we have this thing, and I'm sure you can appreciate this. We're heavy into astrology.
yeah.
So she's like, I wonder what shit. She goes, what is this sign? I was like, I don't know. I never looked it up, but she asked about his rising, and I was like, I don't know, but I'm probably gonna say Sag rising or whatever. So immediately she goes boom, 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 like she always does, and she looks him up. Not only is he a Sag rising, but he's actually a sun in Sag as well, right?
Okay.
So that's what even spurred me to come up with this particular title, the psychology of hex, because I think I actually mentioned this on the first stream I did with you guys over disclosure. When I was saying, when I see Richard Hart, I can understand why people would be put off by him, but to me those are weak type of mentalities. You know what I'm saying? Those are
Yep.
somebody that probably are not very confident in their themselves or their abilities or whatever. But again, because we're into this astrology thing or whatever, this is like a little game for us. But I thought it was, once I understood, that nature of him, then I could completely see that this guy, he commands respect, but only based on the efforts that he puts out. That's a Sagittarian thing. I understand that as well, because I'm a Sag rising, so I can resonate with that purely. You know what I'm saying? And also, as a Sag rising, I know that I myself, more than anything else, demand loyalty. Okay, this product demands loyalty. It rewards loyalty. It's very simple. You can look at all the analytics. You can compare it, proportionally year by year to Bitcoin, to Ethereum. But at the end of the day, if you really want to get into the nuts and bolts, just understand these key critical things. It's about loyalty. It's about consistency. It's about doing what you say you're going to do, and having a spine about the things that you put your time and energy into, and being aware of what you put your time and energy into. So for an example, all of these people who were raising holy hell, leading up to this big payday, and shortly thereafter, all of the aftermath from that, you're only upset because you didn't do your research. Because if you did your research and you understood the product and you're still upset, then that makes you an idiot.
Yeah.
So I hate to be harsh and use those type of terms or whatever, but what else can you say to a person who everything, there's never been a product in my short time in the game, and I've looked at tons of blockchain products. I've never come across a product that is so open and transparent as this particular Hex product, and yet so many people try to, talk their shit and throw their FUD on the product, but you can't. And that's why right now, as we stand, Hex is on an incline, and it's been slowly but surely, it's been maintaining, and now it's going back up to where its rightful place should be, because people believe in this product every single day. I'm
Yeah.
not concerned about the people that are, investing big numbers for, small periods of time, these traders, but I'm looking at people who are invested in five fives, and these are massive numbers that are going into this thing. What other product can you tell me right now that people are so sure of it that they're willing to invest 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road? Go ahead, I'll wait. One product.
Yeah. Nah, dude. And you know what I really love? I love how quickly you picked up on this, because you said you've only been in, maybe like a couple months before a big payday, and
Yeah.
you got it. Like, it was intuitive for you. And you're diving deeper and deeper into the different strategies. You're diving deeper and deeper into, obviously, streaming, and being in the community. You joined us on Discord Syndicate, and you got it. Like, you know that it's a long-term thing. You know what that you're the system. You make your own rewards. And I saw that. That was funny. Um, Barely. You have to say it in the ASMR voice, and then she'll start to understand. That's what you got to do, buddy.
Yeah, that's
um,
funny.
yeah, but like props to you, man. Like that's awesome. And we were just talking like before the stream even started, like in the backstage, and we were really we were clicking on a lot of things. So
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
shows you the kind of quality. And like Barely's another really good dude. You got Lights Out, Timothy, everybody that I know in crypto, they're all really good people.
yeah,
And we all try to reinforce each other. We're supporting each other. Like I've always been like a lone wolf and stuff, and I'm like I'll do it on my own kind of mentality, and I've done great for myself, right? But it's crazy to me to have support from other people now because the community is just that good. It's unreal, unreal.
yeah. No, that's dope as well. Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's one of the main reasons why I even decided to go live as well, because I've never really seen a community as far as the blockchain is concerned, like this Hex community. And obviously there's difference in philosophies and stuff like that or whatever. But I like the way, even when you have a little dust up, a difference in philosophy, we keep it in house, we keep it in the family. We resolve it and we keep it moving from what I've seen so far. So to me, that's very unique. And I think that from what I've seen so far, these are the type of people like yourself that I can definitely see collective unification on certain projects and things moving forward. I think you spoke about this last Sunday, your Sunday as well, about getting into actual the Hex universe and that Hex life and really making it something to be proud of. Not because we're trying to hype anything or whatever, because the hype is real, and that's what a lot of coins can't really tell you. They can't give you that right off the bat. They can't present a product to you without, okay, well, we're waiting for the 2.0, or we're waiting for this mainnet to go live, or this fork or whatever, but Hex is ready to go and it does what it does. So yeah, again, you are live and direct with my man Yazdeep. I am the Nine Ciphers. This is Black Dot Chronicles, and we're dealing with the psychology of Hex. And again, we just want to thank everybody who's hanging out, listening in. Hopefully you guys are getting some inspiration from this. Feel free to comment, and any questions or thoughts or whatever, just keep it moving. But I just want to also, as we get more into Hex, I'm sure everybody in here, we know Richard Hart, but maybe some people who may see this down the road have never heard of Richard Hart. So what I want to do is just play a quick clip, maybe a 3-minute clip deep
Yeah.
of Richard Hart and him just kind of explaining some of the key principles that we already spoke on. So we're going to do that right now.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
The only use case that has had any adoption was.
Oh, come on.
Of course, right? The audio works though, so.
Okay, yeah.
Speculation. Story.
You have got to be kidding me.
It's probably because we're streaming.
It's been swimming
bandwidth
over here, though. And as contrary to popular belief, Australia is not necessarily a major nation when it comes to technology, bro. I'm
Yeah.
over here on copper. So anyway, I won't even. We won't go there.
Okay.
My bad. Anyway, but it's just things that we've already spoken about anyway. Let me just stop that screen real quick. All right.
Yeah.
So that it's just basically what we have spoken about, which one of the tenets you mentioned before was like sound staking foundations, and how and when to do your stakes. Nobody can really tell you, right? Once you understand how the game works. So you have stakes, you got T shares, you got bonuses for staking longer, and then you have the 20% for staking annually. So you have all these different components of Hex, all of these things, and then also you have individuals that end stake early. We get half of that, and the OA gets the other half. So within the 20%, you get all these extra little bonuses and interests that ultimately build up to a very fat bag in a very small amount of time with Hex. So one thing that I realized, and again, to me, it's just like a work in progress. When I started to hear people talking about staking ladders and all, I'm like, what the hell? What's this staking ladder? But I mean, I guess I realized that I was doing staking ladders anyway, but I just, probably wasn't going into the depth and the dynamics. Some people have crazy staking ladders. I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
What I'm
yeah,
saying? But to each his own. But the main thing is, like you said, you have to be willing to go through with whatever it is. If you're gonna do a year stake, then just know that that stake is there for a year. Whatever happens, it's all good.
yeah,
Or if you are planning on taking it out based on like a price point, like Yasadeep was saying, then you got to understand the penalties that go along with that. But again, having sound staking foundations, understanding really what this product is about, and really understanding what you're in it for. You really have to be honest with yourself. Like, what are you really in this for? Are you in it for quick gains, or are you in it for the long run?
yeah,
So once you set those parameters for yourself, or let me keep it to first person. Once I did these things for myself, like I said to you, like to me, Big Payday was just like a launch pad, because from Big Payday, I literally have done 15 stakes, going out 15 years and everywhere in between. And I plan on doing at least, that amount more within
yeah,
the next year, because to me, it's about dollar cost averaging, which simply means you buy what you can afford.
yeah,
Simple. You know what I'm saying? So if you get what you can afford, as long as the price is doing, whatever it's going to do, as long as you're staking more and you're getting more of those T shares, then you're going to be in a good position. And the only thing that's speculative about Hex, if you really want to say, is whatever that rate is going to be, the actual dollar amount or the dividential amount at the time that your stake is over.
yeah,
That's the only thing that you can really speculate about Hex, but that's the speculation in the crypto game. That's the speculation in investment, period.
yeah,
But the one thing that is different, one of the many things that's different in Hex, and I just want to make this clear, is the fact that all you have to do is stake your coins. That's it. 20% annually. And if you're staking for longer terms, then you get, extra coins thrown on for that as well. So it's really not much to Hex in the sense that, from the point that you make your purchase, from ETH to Hex, and then you do your stakes. Once you get on top of that process, then you just watch your money grow.
yeah. No, you
For
can make
sure.
it as simple and as complicated as you want, and that's the thing. Like I have family friends that I actually have some family that are listening in. Uh, he said something funny. Do you watch NBA? Do you follow NBA?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, you know who Chris Bosh is?
Yep. Yeah.
He was like, "Hey, is that Chris Bosh?"
Chris Bosh.
uh,
Yo, Miami's my team, bro.
oh
I'm
yeah,
very, yeah, yo, Miami's my team. I rep Miami hard. Before I came over
yeah.
here, I was actually living in Miami
Oh,
for
that's what's
like,
up.
6 years prior to coming over here. So yeah, man.
We got a little rivalry. I'm a Knicks fan, so
Bro, I was gonna crack on you about that when I saw it. I'm like, yo, I'm so sorry for you, bro. My
man.
condolences.
Yeah, I have strong hands though. I'm not gonna, I've been in this for a long time. If
Yeah,
I could be a
yo,
Knicks fan, I could definitely support Hex for, 15, 30 years, no problem.
yeah, that probably prepared you for this day, huh?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, what were you talking about? Sidetracked. Oh,
um,
yeah. So I have like friends and family that, I got them involved. I explained to them as much as I could. Now, my kind of thing is I like to really explain a little bit too much because I want them to know the full picture, but their side is like, hey, just tell me what I need to know, and and that's enough. And but I've got them set up, and they're not really worried about it. I had them download a staker app so they can see when their stakes are expiring, and that's all they need to really think about going forward. But if for myself, like I like to really be involved, and I can make it as complicated as I want. I can dig into the share price. I can dig into the code. I can dig into staking ladders. I can, there's so many angles at this. What's going to be coming in the future? How this can be adopted with other financial instruments? Like it just on and on and on. And but that's the beauty of it. If you want to keep it really simple, you want to get in, you want to stake your things, and then just you can even set up email notifications, or you can set up you can have your staking ladder translated into a calendar for Google or Apple, whatever you use, and it can just send you reminders, and so you don't even have to think about it, and that's the beauty of it. And then I think for a lot of people it's like, hey, they just want to make money, but I'm kind of an idealist, and I really want to make the world a better place, and I can see how creating stability is one of the best things you can do for the world. And through economics, the monetary stability, I think, will pay I think that's how you solve racism, to be honest. Because people, if they're trading with each other, they don't give a damn who you are, as long as they're making money, you're making money. And if you help them make more money, they're going to love you. They're going to forget the whole race thing, and all these other social problems that we have, they go out the window when everybody's making money. And so for me, knowing that my economic background and my belief there, that's why I really support Hex, and I'm continue to do so. I'm gonna keep rolling in. Every stake that matures, I'm gonna put it out another 15 years. So
yeah, definitely, I agree. And it's funny because that's really was one of the things that really excited me about blockchain as it was presented to me back in May. It seems like forever, but it literally has only been since May when I made my first
yeah,
purchase.
that's crazy.
But and I'm looking and I'm seeing even the first coin that I bought, I specifically bought because of the use case that it presented to me, banking the unbanked, and reaching people in all of these places that don't have access and all the stuff like that. I'm like, yo, that's really dope.
Yep.
And as soon as I began to do just a little research, I'm saying literally within the same week of me like first doing my first purchase, I started to see some of the actors and players that's involved in some of these blockchain products. And I'm like, fuck, this is not what it seems. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm literally immediately, I mean, it's like I went from, elation to just being very happy and excited that I can actually invest in something that's going to do more than make me, material gains and stuff like that,
Yeah.
But again, once I realized, what was what and who was really behind a lot of these things, my whole excitement, it just became very satiated. And then when I started to get even deeper, and I kind of saw how people, all the talk and all of the excitement surrounding a lot of these products, which, and we'll get into this, but as far as I'm concerned, I think a lot of these products that are being offered, they don't have our best interest at heart. They're not to unify, right?
Yeah.
So basically, all the things that they're presenting, like banking the unbanked and leveling the playing field, you really have to ask yourself for who, because you can look at these people who are speaking this particular dialogue in this way, and you look who they've represented historically, and there's no way they're talking about us when they're speaking of leveling the playing field. So again, like when I found Hex and I realized that it actually was the product, and then when I saw so much hate around Richard, because I was shocked, you know what I'm saying? I was like, why are people hating on this guy like that? What's up? Then when I saw a couple of clips of Richard, I'm like, okay, but yo, if the man is speaking facts, if he's disseminating information that nobody else is, and he has receipts, then what the fuck? What's really your issue here?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So all of these things attract to me. It's like it's like a rebel in the midst of a bunch of, followers and,
Yeah.
The status quo and on the blockchain. That's how I see Hex. And it definitely blends with my personality for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. And yeah, and the thing is, it's I think it's just a confirmation bias problem, at least within the crypto community. People have a bias towards Bitcoin or some other coin, and if whatever you say doesn't fit their narrative that they've already kind of developed for themselves, they're not open. They're not even open to the idea that you're telling them a fact. They just get defensive, right? It's not like they're telling, if I told somebody, I recently had this conversation on Reddit, and I told somebody that, hey, Bitcoin's had 2 inflation bugs, and all the mining is centralized in China. And they got defensive with me. They're like, hey, what's your problem with Bitcoin? I'm like, hey, I'm just telling you the truth, because you said it was the most secure thing that was out there, the most secure asset in the world. And I'm like, that's not true. And I'm just telling you that you're wrong, and you do whatever you want with the information. But like, what are you getting defensive with me about? He's like, well, what are you holding, or things like that. And I'm like, this guy just has a confirmation bias, and I think so many people are that way. That it's really destructive. But once we break down these barriers, we get a bit more public. Get into the public eye. Like, I don't even care about this crypto community. I'm focused on the public. I want to try to help the small fish, get in, stake long, have something to look forward to. And then whenever if whales want to FOMA in, I mean, let that happen. But just my focus is trying to bring people on board and get them to buy in on something that could really change their life.
Yeah, I agree, definitely, for sure. And that's why, honestly, I'm literally doing this with you right now, because again, I mean, this is the first product that I 100% know it will do what it says it's purported to do. And, you can't really beat that. And it's so simple. It's like a fixed deposit, certificate of deposit, whatever you want to call it. You put your money in, just like right now, you go down to one of these establishment banks that don't care anything about you.
Yeah.
That's doing fractional mathematics to cheat you out of everything that you will ever have value in.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, you getting fractions of what all these people were complaining about that they got on Big Payday. Name one single bank that would have given you the awards you got, regardless of whenever you put it in within that year leading up to Big Payday. Name one single bank that you can go into, one major institution you can go into, and you can get that type of gains in that period of time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. This is a real, and then on top of that, as I see even today, I'm looking at the rankings and stuff like that, and all of these major sites like CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko that everybody uses that really don't know the inner workings of crypto. That's where they go.
Yeah.
And Richard Hart talks about this as well. Nobody's looking on page 2 when they're trying to make an investment. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's looking for the 200 best coin, when they're looking to make an investment, which according to these 2 particular sites, this is where they will have HEX, even if they have HEX ranked at all. But if you look at the official ranking, you see HEX is doing way better than a lot of these coins that's been out for years.
Mm-hmm.
Years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The sustainability, the volume. How do you want to do it? The market cap, you want to look at the analytics, deep into the analytics. You know what I'm saying? No matter which way you want to chop it up with HEX, it is like, is buff in the crypto game. You know what I'm saying? And it should be, it should have a lot more shine. So again, people like you and me, you know what I'm saying, like hook up with these other cats, like I said, shout out to Unwrecked and the boys with what's the name of the show? The night show with late night?
The late night HEX show, I think.
Late night HEX show. I checked these boys out. They're local to Australia, so I'm sure we'll cross paths as well, and this is what we have to do. We have to keep this community strong. We have to keep honest about what this product is, and we have to keep each other honest about how we present, the product. You know what I'm saying? Because to me, as you said, this is something that is generational wealth. Because we've got, my wife is Indian. You know what I'm saying? So we got fucking fixed deposits back in India. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We're getting 8%. That's fucking great compared to anywhere in the West, but it doesn't compare to HEX.
Yeah. You
know what I'm saying? So there's monies that we've had tied up for 5 years or whatever, that I'm thinking, damn. Yeah. I wish HEX was around. I wish I knew about it some years back. I could have been putting that money directly into HEX for the same period of time, and the return would have been like 200, 300x more than whatever I would have done in traditional banking.
Yeah.
So now what we were talking about earlier before, and I think this is something that a lot of people will be interested in as well, as far as like everyday use cases, like some of the things that the real world use cases of HEX, right? Last Sunday, when I was speaking into your broadcast, you were actually touching on some of these things, like how we can actually use HEX in everyday life, as far as like personally, with regards to just long-term investment, estate planning, and also like enterprise creation as well and development. So you want to get into that a little bit, maybe talk about some of the things or expound on some of the topics that you were talking about last week, because I think that's very necessary for people to hear.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to add one thing. Since Hex is already a product, it's complete. There's nothing more to be done. What we're building here is a culture. What we're building here is a community, and we all have, and we're all coming together. Well, no matter where we are in the world, we all are building a culture together. And I think that's an underrated aspect, or it's something that we haven't really talked about enough yet. But since we're on the psychology of Hex right now, that's
Yeah.
exactly what we're doing. You and I right now, we're building a culture. All these guys that are in the chat right now, we're building a culture, and our culture, our Hex culture in crypto is by far the best, and and we're growing, and we're squeezing out the bad cultures that exist, and I think that's underrated. And if we really want to look at the impact that Richard is having, it's this right here. It's not as much, like, obviously this wouldn't happen without Hex, but this is
Mm.
equally as powerful. And so um, yeah, and so okay, going into what you were asking, building enterprises, building, getting a little bit deeper into this. I actually just got a message from my brother-in-law uh, asking how do we use this in everyday transactions. Right now, it's not set up for everyday transactions, but it's not that it couldn't be. The thing is, uh, with transaction is like, let's say I'm trying to buy something. Let's say I'm trying to buy a ledger, or whatever product I'm trying to buy. And I go to Amazon, I'm trying to buy something. Soon as I sell my hex to that company, to that person, whoever I'm, buying something from, they have an incentive now to sell the hex that I just gave them. So even if I did a transaction from one wallet to another wallet, now there's some sell side pressure to sell hex on their side for USD or whatever they need
Yeah.
to, pay for their taxes and whatever else and their other expenses. And when that happens, that drives the price down.
Yeah.
And so I actually don't think right now that's not the focus, is not uh, to transact with everyday life. Right now, it's a store of value, and that's what a CD is. It's to grow your store of value, and that's the thing that people have gotten wrong. Like, you can use other coins, like Bitcoin Cash is probably the most accepted that I've seen, but the price is down in the dumps. Like, and it keeps going down and down, even though it's probably the most used for transactions. And I know Dash is also working on trying to be a more transaction network. And if that happens, great. More power to them. I don't really want to speak on those too much. But what Hex is, it's not made for that. It's not. You can develop payroll systems with Hex, but again, you would have that sell side pressure. It would be the same problem that Bitcoin has with mining. When you mine your Bitcoin, now there's an incentive for you to sell it because you have to pay for electricity, you have to pay for your expenses and all this other stuff. And so that adds sell side pressure to Bitcoin all the time. Every month, there's millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin being sold because they have to pay for their expenses. In Hex, you don't have that sell side pressure, which helps with price. Again, store of value. So um, hopefully that answers this question. But as far as expanding further into more enterprise and things, one, my focus is for marketing. When my stakes mature, I'm going to roll some of that money. I'm going to turn it into USD, but I'm going to roll that into marketing for Hex. And so while it will add to some sell side, I'm going to take the profits, and hopefully that amplifies the message even more. And then when Staker app comes out with their referral system, that'll
Yeah.
give me even more incentive to grow that economy in that way.
Definitely.
So, I don't have a problem with people selling eventually, because at some point, my long term things, I want to start school systems, because I have a real problem with the education, not just in the States, but around the world. People don't
Yeah.
understand economics. They don't understand jack shit about anything. They're being
Yeah.
taught all this nonsense. I was trying to help my younger cousin with math, and she's learning about functions, but there's no real life application for why she's learning about functions at her age. And
Yeah.
I explained it to her, so she got the homework done, but it's like, what a waste of her time. Like, I'm sure there's something that she finds more interesting that she could learn when she's, like, why is it that you have to learn about functions when you're in whatever grade you're in? Why can't you learn about what you're really interested in? What if you lose interest by the time you get to the grade where you're supposed to learn about, whenever it's pre-prescribed that you learn about, chemistry or something? If you're interested in chemistry at eighth grade, you should learn it at eighth grade rather than waiting until you get to high school or whatever the case might be. And so
100.
fundamentally, that's my long-term goal. And then also I have a problem with healthcare. I think the cost is too high, transparency sucks. And people want this like universal healthcare idea. And I think it is indistinct if healthcare was so low that it was affordable to anyone versus healthcare being free because it's universal. I think it's indistinguishable that people wouldn't mind paying for healthcare if it was affordable, but that's the thing. They don't really care if it's free or if it's affordable. That's just the price point. But the difference is quite different. When you have something that's free, it's a subsidy, prices go up, quality goes down. This is well documented. When something's in the market, there's incentives for driving the price down. There's incentives for driving the quality up and innovating constantly. And so there's totally different feedback loops there. So those are some of the things I want to work on in the short term. Right now, I am developing a hex board game, a physical hex board game. It's very rough draft. I need to get approval from Richard to use the copyright and stuff. So if this doesn't work out, like no promises or anything, but I just find this really interesting because I think that's one way you can get multiple generations of people. You can get your grandparents, you can get your parents, you can get yourself, your kids, whatever you have. They can all sit down together with the intention of having fun, but they're also at that moment are going to be very open-minded to learning new things, which isn't the case in a regular situation. Like normal day to day, people aren't as open-minded because they're trying to get through whatever they need to get through their day. But if you have a situation when everyone's trying to have fun, it's like playing Monopoly. You set up a board game and you'll be open-minded to learning about what hex is, what staking is. It's kind of like playing life and it's kind of like playing Monopoly, but we're going to try to combine the two ideas, maybe make it into a tablet idea or something. And maybe a tablet type of game. I don't know how it's going to morph into, but I think it's really cool. And that's one way to expand the education, the knowledge, and maybe that the young kids that are playing that game might grow up with a different sense of what is a responsible, like incentivize good behavior through this game. And then they might learn those and use those, apply those principles going forward in their life. And I think that adds value to the world at large. And that's my goal. So I think those are some of the ways that we can, and there's other people working on different things, different marketing techniques and different products or different products and stuff. So really exciting. And I can't wait to see what else happens. I've heard some rumblings about some cool things that might be coming out in the future. No promises, so I won't talk about them, but I'm just really excited.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of use cases that, people are bubbling on and a lot of things that, nobody's even thought of yet. And that's what's really exciting about Hex. It's so young. This product just had a 1-year birthday. So, I think we're in a pretty good place, but it's so funny as I hear you talk, like, how aligned we are with the social, political, economic type of sovereign libertarian, focus on things because again, more than anything, this is my main focus. And like I said, because so for instance, one thing that I've been kind of, building on with regards to Hex, just to, same with the theme of just keeping it simple and, fun and kind of interactive. So, I make music, and all the other stuff, produce and engineer and, write and all the stuff like that. So obviously, I know quite a few musicians, all over. So, I'm just kind of, thinking about a platform, that's, Hex as the foundation on the blockchain where I can do kind of like a Yo MTV Raps or something like that. I mean, not something I'm just saying like our the basement or something like a hip hop show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like live on the blockchain and basically have Hex as the background. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's something as little as like just giving away Hex. You know what I'm saying? To like whatever MC got the dopest freestyle or. You know what I'm saying? Or like just really starting to trade in Hex, you know what I'm saying, on these levels with, for beats and, all
start
of
a contest. Yeah. Like,
yeah,
hey, spit me some lines and whoever gets the most votes, you gift them some amount of Hex or some community pool kind of gift somebody. Because we've had some music come out. Have you heard Freddie Quotes came out with a song? Did you hear that?
No, but I actually just found I think it's like a hex. I just on Twitter, it's like a hex radio or a hex music or something like that.
Okay.
There's a someone has a Twitter handle. I just saw it like just in the past 12 hours. So
Okay.
maybe that's what it is. But no, I haven't heard any hex music at all as of
Oh,
yet.
dude, I'll tweet you. It's good. It's catchy
Yeah,
too. It's real
true.
catchy. It's real hype. Yeah, I get excited. So like,
Yeah,
yeah, I could
man.
see, if we get, and it'll get somebody like, hey, I'll earn some hex or something for, spitting some lines. Anybody that's, up and coming, throw it on SoundCloud, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, just that was just something that just came to me just right off the top of my head, whenever we spoke last week, and we were talking about putting this piece together.
Yeah.
But I think something I also think about, which is obviously more serious and, things that we would probably have to keep within the community within our groups until we actually launch some things or whatever. But, I know this is kind of already incubating because I see a lot of the broadcasts from Disclosure and a lot of the guys that they bring on and shit. So I know there's a lot of think tank type stuff going on in the background,
Yeah.
So I mean, really, especially once we can, move more freely, hopefully sooner than later, we
Mhm.
can start, really getting together amongst the Hex community and those ones of us who really see like or have a vision or want to kind of and assist with, crafting out a vision for Hex because I mean, it can go either way. I mean, it does what it does, but the things that we can do, like with regards to what you were saying and what I was saying, those potentials are infinite. And so I think that, with the upgrading of the technology, even like with the Staker app, that gives us a bit more leeway to kind of interface with people and bring people in. But I mean, the capabilities are infinite with regards to what we can do with Hex. And I'm saying like as far as like full on marketing, like you're saying, but
Mhm.
also, use cases based on these things that you and me are talking about. Like for instance, one thing that I want to do like a long time ago, um, like the first time I went to India, the places I went around to, I just had some ideas in my head of things that I could do like perpetually to make, make a small difference. So
Mhm.
one of the things I was thinking of doing was there was this one water filtration system that was around like about a decade ago or whatever.
Mhm.
It's from America, but it's all like solar powered, and it was very unique as far as like, and they had industrial versions, scale versions of them as well. So I just thought, I would just kind of do something where I've got this some type of, organization where I'm just, installing these water filtration systems in different parts, of little villages or whatever. Some of the places that I saw that could be self-sustaining, like the parts were not expensive, very cheap. You didn't need really much mechanical behind it or whatever.
Mhm.
So, these are the things, that kind of, I think about when I'm dealing with, the blockchain and the things that I want to do. And again, as I said, when I found Hex, I realized that just because of the purity and simplicity of the product and the fact that it does what it says it's going to do, it's actually organic. As this grow, this is something that actually I can grow with myself. So long story short, I've actually within those 15 stakes that I've done post big payday, I've actually included stakes to actually execute some of these things that I've been wanting to do
No
for
way.
a long time. Yeah, bro. Like 100%. I'm like, why not? And this is what I was saying about actual real world use cases for Hex. And as you were explaining earlier, it's basic principle. It's a banking product. It's a CD, a fixed
Yeah.
deposit. This is exactly what it does. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, this is how you move in business anyway. If you're organizing some shit, unless you got like money out the wazoo and you got tons of fucking finance behind you,
Yeah.
people like me, like, I've been over here in Australia and I've had, my company, I'm in telecommunications and I'm a technician or whatever. So I know I've had a company for as long as I've been over here, minus about a year from me getting over here.
Yeah.
So, and I've dreamed of different projects and things that I wanted to do, what I'm saying, for like altruistic reasons and also just to build, through the corporation or whatever. And I've never been able to really fully recognize that vision because of all the restraints and all of the sending money to and from and all of these things that we know that the real world system offers us before blockchain.
Yeah.
And again, so once I found the blockchain and I got really excited, then I realized, hold on a second, this is kind of like a Trojan horse, which I'll get into later. I was renewed whenever I found Hex. You know what I'm saying? And every day since I first purchased Hex, like it was almost like every other day from I first purchased, I was doing more stakes. I was doing more stakes. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, okay, well, let me just hang out. Then after big payday, when my vision came more clear, after I'd done more research, after I broke bread with brothers like you and the boys at Disclosure Project and all that shit like that. I'm sorry, Disclosure Syndicate.
Discourse
I'm
syndicate.
sorry, Discourse Syndicate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I realized, you know, again, you know, once you commune with like minds and stuff, you get ideas, right? You get vision.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided, okay, well, let me just start on this one part now, and I can combine that with the other things that I've already been doing. So yeah, that's what I did. I literally put out stakes based on projects that I want to execute that have nothing to do with like,
That's
you know,
so
me
cool.
personally.
That's so cool, man. That's the best. Yeah, no, dude, I totally get it, because and this is the culture that I'm talking about, right? This is us coming together, feeding off each other, and look, we're trying to do things that are better for the world, right? People think that we're trying to make all this money because we're greedy. Do you hear the conversations that we're having like amongst each other? Like the things that
Yeah,
we're like, yeah, we want, Moon Boy talk, like, yo, let's get $1, let's 50 cents, whatever,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Let's go to $72, whatever. Like, yeah,
yeah,
we have that in us, right? Because it's exciting, it's fun. You talk shit, we make fun of each other, like that's all good. But there's also
definitely.
a much very serious side of ourselves that's also starting to come out. Because it's like what you said, you got this renewed strength to because you can believe in your future, that if these things happen and you set up these stakes, you started planning for these things to happen, right?
Yeah,
Like and before this, you didn't have these plans. And I always had these dreams too, but I'm like, man, if I don't have this money, like, how am I going to make this
exactly.
happen, right? Like,
Yeah,
I could dream all day, but I got to find something that's going to strike gold, and then bring the ideas that I've always had, that I'm trying to push out. And people listen to you sometimes, right? If you have some
mm,
ideas, they're like, yeah, but they also know that, like, what you're going to do about it, right? Like, shut up and show me kind of thing. And what have you done for me lately? And I finally feel like I've been talking a lot of shit for a long time, and I finally feel
yeah,
like I have an opportunity to make it happen. And you bet your ass I'm gonna make it happen. So
hell
yeah,
yeah.
I feel you. I get so excited thinking about that. And um, yeah, children of the grave, and with each other we can make it all happen. I agree with you, buddy.
Yeah, no doubt, for
Yeah,
sure.
and that's the exciting thing. I was talking to Vince. We were sharing the things that he wants. Vince Crypto, and he wants to work on animal shelters around the United States, because that's something he's passionate about. And I have a dog. He's not here with me, but I have a dog. He lives with my mom now,
Yeah,
and like, I love animals. I used to be a vegan. It didn't work out for me, so I'm back off that. But I do care about uh, trying to minimize as much cruelty as possible, while also moving forward in some type of way. And so I could support that, and I want to support him. Whatever his ideas are, whatever ways that I can help kind of push his narrative through. However, I can help you, because, like, I'm Indian, and you said your wife's Indian, and I was born and raised in America, but, like, there's a whole, I'm sure you've heard the farmers strike right that's going on right
yeah,
now. And so
yeah,
that's a really big deal. And I'm coming out with a video that I can try to explain in a different perspective, that I think, so just to give you a little bit of context on everybody else, that there's a strike going on in India because they changed the laws, where the government was providing a MSP, a minimal, it was basically like an insurance plan for the minimum price that you can
yeah,
buy goods from farmers. And now that's going away. They call it deregulation. What's up, David? They call it deregulation, and some people are like, hey, the farmers really need this. And I can see how the government doing that in India, they're gonna, by saying it's deregulating, they're giving corporations an opportunity to take advantage of people with a lot less means. Um, but on the flip side, I understand the economics of deregulation, but you can't have this corporatism, this corny crony capitalism that's going on, and call that free market, because that's not free market. And so there's like inconsistencies on both sides, and I think on some level both sides have some good intentions. But there's, I think one side has a bit more nefarious intentions. But anyway, I'm trying to come out with a video to explain that. But here's a way for the people of Punjab and a lot of India, the other farmers that are everywhere else, to maybe it's kind of too early for crypto to take place in India. But what if there was a way that I could take my gains because of my investments and roll that back into the people that gave me an opportunity to be where I'm at, right? My grandparents that came from there, my parents that came from there. And then, even though the people that live in Punjab, I don't really know them very much, and I don't have very many family over there, but that's still, in some sense, it's still my people, and I could give back to them, but I need them to try to understand a little bit, uh, how economics really works. David Feeder asked, "Did India finally relax on crypto laws?" They did, but there's a lot of corruption around there. So there was a Supreme Court ruling of India that said it was illegal for them to make crypto illegal, therefore saying crypto is legal. But I don't know if they're, if the, so that's the current state as I know it. I don't know, and that's pretty recent, past few months at least. So I think for a while it's legal, but we'll see what happens going forward. I know they manipulate their currency quite a bit. They did away with the 1,000 rupee. And a lot of people that are poor, they didn't have banks, they just had cash on hand, and now all of a sudden their cash is worthless. That's totally fucked. And I absolutely hated that. And I'm trying to tell my Punjabi friends and family that, like, yo, this is screwed up. The government can't be allowed to do this. And they agree that it was screwed up, but they don't really fully understand and grasp how it's screwed up and all that. Anyway.
No, I'm with you, but yo, check this out though. I got a theory, right, about this whole situation with India.
Okay.
Okay, so remember maybe about 5 years ago when they came in with the RFID, the national ID for India.
Yeah.
Everybody was required to basically get this national ID, and obviously if you were on the lower economic scale, then they were tying it to all the whatever government benefits you would get, so you had to have this. So maybe then a year or two later, they debased the currency. So even when they said that, I'm telling wife, I'm like, yo, India's selling out. They're literally selling India out to the West, to be a part of the system, UN and all of this, sustainability and all this stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So then they debased their currency, and as you just said, it really affected the people who don't have bank accounts, who are not readily accessible to these type of services in their everyday life. That's a huge part of India. So immediately they ensured that a bunch of people, percentage wise, was going to fall beneath what was already like
even more poverty. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying, like 100%. So this was all so they could be a part of this global game. This is what they did. So now what they're doing with this cryptocurrency, they've been going back and forth like with these scare tactics. Oh, you can't trade crypto, shut down the exchanges, whatever. We're gonna fucking, rule it out. And then I think the government came in, the courts came in and decided that, nah, you guys can't do that. You actually are breaking the law when you're telling people that they can't trade this currency or whatever. So what I realized in the background, we know that Ripple R3 is all over the world, and especially India. So, and not only that, ever since they come in with the national ID, they've been on blockchain technology. So I think it's very funny that on one hand, they're telling, all of a sudden they're threatening that you can't do this with regards to selling crypto. At the same time, it's very difficult in India to attain gold, right? So you can't get gold, and all of a sudden we're locking you out of the crypto game. So the two places where people who are paying attention could put their money, they've basically shut them out of the gold, and they're threatening crypto to where people are not even interested in doing it. People who really have money. So the way I see it, what's going to happen is they already know that crypto is the game, because there's actually a bank out of England. This came out a couple of weeks back. They're opening up like 20 to 30 some branches in all over India, specifically having departments like directly related to blockchain and cryptocurrency, right? So at the same time, they're telling all these people that you can't buy this cryptocurrency. They're steady setting up the infrastructure in order to do business internationally, cross border with cryptocurrency. So my point is, what I see is that they're forcing people to keep their monies in the bank. They're shutting off all of the outlet ramps and shit. So you can't actually invest your money into something sound. You have to keep it in fiat currency. And so when, obviously we understand that this global economy is being led down this path of implosion
Yeah.
by design. So what they're going to do is making sure that they're trying to take away more freedoms because finances are freedom in this reality that we exist, right? So
Yeah.
that's my, the long and the short. That's kind of what I see going on over there. Because even I tried to speak to my father-in-law about this as well, just letting him know, like, hey, this is what's going on. You
Yeah.
might want to, try to diversify your portfolio, whatever, But I think that's something that's happening not just in India, but all over. You're seeing this same type dynamic set up where people can't travel internationally. The whole means of how we were doing business and moving money for the past 75 years, they just shut it down.
Yeah.
And they never really came till date. They haven't really come with any solution except for more regulations, more rules, more laws that essentially take more freedoms away from us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, that's why I think, again, a product like Hex can be very, very significant in these times, if nothing else, for stability. And what I'm really, really hoping, let me just get to my main thing, my main thing, like number one on my list. More than anything, I'm hoping literally to go beyond, like, to start these chats as like a fertile ground, right? You know what I'm saying? So brothers like me and you, brothers like, over at Discourse or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And all of these cats, you know what I'm saying? Motley, all these cats that have, I've heard from and influenced me one way or the other, yo. I really hope that moving forward that we can make this more than just an online thing. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I really hope that we can get together with like minds and really create these avenues, these off ramps that are really going to, for proportionally whatever we can do, but we'll really make ripples, like, perpetually, no matter how small we may have to start. Like I was telling you about my idea about the water filtration systems that are, industrial strength that will definitely help a lot of people. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? In some of these
Yeah.
places like that. So that's my number one thing more than anything. I really want to build with people, like generational, hopefully we'll have generational wealth, but more than a generational wealth, I hope that we can actually create institutions that counteract these institutions that protrude our lives right now, that don't
Yeah.
have our best benefit at heart.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a very interesting take, and I tend to agree with you, because I know how they manipulate money, and there's definitely a purpose, and they're probably going to try to make fiat illegal, or not illegal, but just stop printing it. At least in the States, I think that's definitely a trend. They're trying to go to like a Fed coin,
Yeah,
and so that they can control every transaction, where the money comes from, where it goes. And we know that the US dollar is the one that's the most corrupt. It's the one that's used for the most illegal amount of activities. And the U.S. government has done a lot of bad shit. It's very well documented.
yeah,
The CIA, the things the CIA has been involved with money laundering, drugs,
yeah,
drug cartels, working with
yeah,
them to achieve their own goals, whether it's in Colombia or it's in Afghanistan, Pakistan. Like, there's a lot of shady stuff going on, and
yeah,
there's no accountability. There's no way to hold these people responsible. What happened to Jeffrey Epstein? Nobody talks about it anymore. He was in bed with a lot of very wealthy, very prominent people,
yeah,
and we'll never know. And it's disgusting. And yeah, so and it's crazy how easy it is for people to dismiss something as a conspiracy, only because it is provocative, right? Because it
yeah,
actually has some truth to the things that we're saying, and they can
yeah,
see that there's something there, but they just don't want to believe it. So it's a conspiracy, right? They want to have their confirmation bias be that the world is not as fucked up as it really is, and the fact that and maybe they just don't think that we can do anything about it, and that there is nobody fighting for the good in the world. And I want to prove them wrong. I want to prove them wrong. I want to, I've talked a lot of shit for a lot of years about what I want to do, and I want to finally shove it in their face and say, look, this is what I've been saying, and I'm proving it, and it's going to happen, and I'm not backing down. I would love for that opportunity, and I would love to be tested in that way. And how many
Yeah.
people are wanting to take on that responsibility? Like how many people want to take on the responsibility of how you're trying to set up water filtration systems in India? How many people really want to try to do that with their opportunities that they have in life, right? A lot of them just
Mm,
don't believe that's even a possibility. But look, we're making it happen now, and
yeah.
it's not just because we got lucky that we found Hex. Like there's very it's very interesting the people that are attracted to Hex, right? Because I don't think it's a happy mistake or anything like that. I think, and I don't know if like it's destiny, but there's a reason why we found Hex. There's a reason why all of us are here, and it's not just by chance.
Right.
Um, and so I find that very powerful because the type of ideas that all of us have, you don't see this in the rest of society. You don't see the resilience, the type of people that we have, the type of resilience we have. You don't see that in other communities anywhere, whether it's crypto or something else.
Yeah.
And there's so many military people. The thing that's inspiring about the guys that we have, there's so many military vets, is those people at some point in their life made a decision to go into the military and at any point be ready for war.
Yeah.
And and the mentality for someone to choose to do so, to actively take on that, is interesting to me. It's something that is it's very underrated in our community. We've talked about, hey, we have a lot of military guys, but like think about the idea of going to war, and those are the kind of guys that are on our side. So yeah, man, it gets me pumped, it gets me hyped.
Yeah, yo, that's so funny. This the uniqueness about this community. It is seem to be like a certain type of mentality. Again, like I say, obviously there's like certain little small differences or whatever. But what I can tell that runs throughout is people, you know, that are in this community, they just want what's right and what's owed to them, right? They want to reap the efforts of their labor. You know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
want to have equality. You know what I'm saying? They want to be able to do things that everybody should be able to do as long as you're not harming anyone, right? So this kind of leads me to, one of my three, just like random topics that I wanted to touch on. And we've been touching on it all the way through.
Yeah.
But and we mentioned it before we actually came on the line, and we were talking about just some of the things that are happening politically and social, economically, in America and really throughout the world. Um, and I was just telling you, like even back years ago, when I was posting on Facebook, I put up a post essentially warning people about this. And this is when Obama first came into office, for those people who wasn't privy to the dialogue we had earlier. And I was simply saying that, yo, this is what they're rolling out. This civil war followed by the race war followed by the civil war. This was back in between 29 and 2012. Okay. So what I'm saying, obviously, I've done enough research up until that point to understand, to see the writing on the wall. And literally what we've watched over the past 12 years is all of that buildup accumulate to what they have been wanting. They want to divide and conquer us. When I say they, I am talking about these would be so-called establishment leaders. I call them deplorable, but if you want to call them elite, all good. But to me, they're deplorable.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that, because they spend a lot of time trying to divide the people and have us do what's not in our best interest, as opposed to do what's in our best interest. They want to give us fake and falseness. They want to give us everything that's not real and not natural, and tell us that it's real and natural and this is how we should be. I feel like the people in Hex are kind of see through that. We know what is best for ourselves, for our family, the people that we love and care about, right? And we don't necessarily need, all of this. Like for instance, I'm sure you've probably seen this World Economic Forum um, video clip where they're basically projecting to you subliminally what your future will be like, and it's like you will own the property and you will like it. I don't know
Mhm.
if you've seen this documentation and a lot of the clips that they've been putting out for years. You know, for since like 2017, they've been basically telling us that we are coming and we're taking all of your fucking freedoms away, and we're going to use some disease that was, you know, generated in a lab and there's patents for. We're going to use this as the pretext, the Trojan horses, if you will, to come and corral even more of your freedoms and your sovereignty. This is what I see is going on. And I'm just, you know, kind of putting this out. And I hope that, you know, the unity that people see within this hex community as more people come on, and you see people like RG3, you know what I'm saying, the number one pirate. You see people like Dollar Cost, you see people like Motley and Kinetics and all of these guys and Karim and all of these guys, you know, from all these different places, and gals from all these different places, and we all come together under one banner. There's no beef. There's no ego. I mean, I've been in the background for a while. You know what I'm saying? And I've been just watching. You know, everybody's cool. You know what I'm saying? And everybody stays on point with the message. Nobody's trying to, you know, even compare Hex to anything. We're only talking about Hex, and we only really speak outside of that when we have people with agendas
Yeah.
that want to come and throw dirt on Hex, knowing that they're basically doing this to uplift their product, right? We see a lot of that. So other than that, I don't see the Hex community, you know, really talking about anything outside of Hex, and that's really unique. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you a lot on it's the people that come up with these rules are not the ones following the same rules, and so we've seen that happen on more than a number of occasions, and it happens throughout history over and over and over again, and that signals distrust for me, and but it's interesting how easily people can be corralled or manipulated or convinced of some other idea. And and I mentioned guilt being a very powerful tool that these people use that are in positions of power that I don't think they deserve it, um, and they use guilt in very manipulative ways, and it's subtle. You almost don't even see it coming, and then when you feel bad about yourself, you're willing to do a lot of very bad things. And something I like to think about is the people that we think to be evil in history, or the people that we think to have done a lot of evil. They probably didn't think, if you had asked them before they did anything that they did, that if they were capable of that, they would probably be like, no, absolutely not. But in hindsight, you can see how, it's easy for us to judge them as being evil, but when they're living in their life, in their little bubble, in their time period, the things, whether it's the communist regimes that have existed, or if you want to talk
Yeah.
about Nazi Germany and things like that, the people that were doing those evil things, they didn't really think they were doing the wrong thing. Not a lot of them did not think that. They thought they were doing the right thing. They believed whatever they were believing, and it's disgusting how, we almost try to remove ourselves from them, but they were no more or less the people that we are today, or that we could become at any moment. And I think it's very hard to guard against that, but we have to acknowledge that. And I think, sometimes I talk to people and they're like, oh yeah, but that'll never happen in America. And that's exactly when it happens, right?
Yeah.
It's a very slippery slope. And yeah, I just don't know how to drive that message home. But I think people, they just want, just tell me what you want me to do, right? Like that's the kind of mentality that they have. They don't really, uh, they don't want to figure it out for themselves, and so that's what Hex is kind of trying to do. It's giving you a better solution, and here, make the, but you have to kind of, you give them 90% and have them come 10%
Yeah.
to you, right?
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of faith in Hex, but I do see a lot of, even if Hex does what it does and then they outlaw fiat, I think there's a lot of dangers in that. Um, but there's always good and bad kind of fighting each other. But I think people don't know how to tell what is good and bad. It's actually very, very murky water.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, it's funny because I'm actually I've been since I've gotten into crypto and I realized the things that I've kind of realized, and I've been doing deep dives into all of this shit, I've been starting to put out a bit of documentation to cover what kind of I've unraveled, so to speak. So, I've been putting together this series called Crypto Cult, Dark Side of the Moon, the Digital Asset Trojan Horse. And I got to tell you, I was mentioning this before, like how I've gotten so much pushback already on YouTube. They're giving me scratches for this and that, all this crazy shit. Like they don't want me to get this shit up, right? But
Hmm.
essentially, what I realized very soon after I got into this game is that they are positioning the blockchain to be this Trojan horse, is what I call it, in
Yeah.
order to corral the unsuspecting masses into, and to with the intention of taking away our freedoms. They want, this is like a high tech, fascist aristocratic track and trace type system they're trying to set up, and they only really want to make sure that it's not necessarily a level playing field. It's only a level playing field for those who've already got the keys to the game, who's
Right.
already got the scorecard or whatever. So my whole point is, through this whole process of making these little installments and stuff like that, I'm just showing people that these people we call elite, they speak in a language that is like hidden in plain sight. So
Yeah.
when they're speaking to us subliminally while speaking esoterically to themselves, meaning that they're speaking a language that only a few are privy to,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So from my perspective, they're literally using, back in the 90s and shit like that, when I was younger, there was George Bush on the scene and this whole thing of New World Order, and they talked about this New World Order and this great vision that they wanted to create, and they had all of these different installments, even going back from like 100 years ago, the 1930s. The United Nations, I'm sorry, the EU,
Hmm.
European Union, was literally manifested like in the 30s or 40s. You know what I'm saying? The European Union has been around for that long as a body, but we never even heard of the European Union as like a collective group until like what, 2000, the late 90s or something like that. So my point is, these people do things like behind the scenes. They do things well in advance, and before, by the time we are hearing about it, it's already done. So what I discovered with this blockchain and this blockchain technology is that they are literally going to use this in order to trap the people. It's so great that it's interoperable, right? It's so great that it's trustless and that it's immutable and all of these things, but it has like, there's polarity to this. If everything was everything and we could trust these people that we called our leaders, and you would tell me that this thing is immutable, right? I'm thinking, yeah, that's fucking great. That means like all my shit, I don't ever have to worry about anything like, that I can't control. I can see everything is above board, but at the same time, that means everybody can see me. You know what I'm saying? That means like, for instance, with this product Hex, another good thing that Richard did was set it up through Uniswap. It's decentralized, truly. There's no KYC, right? There's none of that
Yeah.
stuff. You put in your
Yep.
details, boom, and your shit is done. Now, all these other blockchain companies, I won't name them, but all you got to do is, again, anybody's talking about interoperability and leveling the playing field and banking the unbanked. Why do they only exist on these centralized exchanges? If they were really for the people, if they're really trying to put the power in the hands of the people, like they're saying, why do they only exist on these centralized exchanges? Why don't we even have the option, you know what I'm saying, to actually utilize this blockchain technology as it was meant to be? And the answer that I've gotten through my research is because they're actually in on it. Let me just put it like this. You think that there's a coincidence that some of these startup companies like Ripple, XRP, and Stellar XRM, right? You think that these all of the companies, these are the only ones on the planet that's been able to sit down with bankers, world leaders, the number one Fortune 500 companies around the fucking planet consistently, These two companies are the only one that's been able to have this space with these guys. You know what I'm saying? And on
Yeah.
top of that, you got these individuals from the same individuals that were responsible for the banking crash in '08. Some of the ones that were in these banking companies and stuff like that, I see them going to and from Ripple. I see
Yeah.
XLM going to and from the government. So
Yep.
again, not to even belabor this, but what people need to understand is whatever your gains are in crypto, please don't think you're just going to pack your bag and go run to the hills. And this is one of the things that really has been bothering me as I've been coming along, that nobody is even aware of what's really going on. People really think that they're going to let you make all these potential earnings where people like me and you actually have a design as to how we think we can make this world a better place. You think they're gonna really let us make all of these mad gains? Our bags are so packed, we're going to the moon, and they're not gonna have something already in place, a mechanism to corral all of that. So my thing is, I really want people to understand that if you make these gains, even if you don't link up with somebody like myself, somebody like Deep or whatever, right? You need to understand that this is not a game. There is no freedom unless we create it for ourselves, because what they have in store for us right now, what's the point of having mad bags and mad gains if you're a prisoner
Yeah.
within your own reality?
Yeah.
And I hate to get so deep and so dark or whatever with regards to this conversation, but this is the reality that's in front of us. So again, I just hope that people really understand, at least what I'm trying to say with regards to this is that, we need to look out for each other. There's no division amongst the people. There is
Right.
no division amongst the people. The division is with these so-called elites, the deplorables that tell you who your enemy is when truly they are the real enemy. Look at their policies. Look at
Yeah.
what they've done to you as Americans. I'm sitting over in Australia. I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, like from the very beginning, they're throwing out money to corporations, small business like myself, people who may be on welfare, everywhere in between. They took care of us over here. You know what I'm saying? Why can't America do that? What's going on with your so-called leaders that they can't even take care of you in the worst crisis that's we've seen, at least in my lifetime? You know what I'm saying? I've never seen everything shut down like this. But
Yeah.
what are they trying to do? Foment more division, foment more separation, have you cheering for a Democrat or Republican when the truth be told, both of those work for the same team, and it's not you. You're not on that team.
Exactly. 100% agree.
So that's kind of what it is. That's my soapbox. That was one of the major issues that I wanted to touch on today, that essentially, again, make these gains with whatever blockchain you deal with, whatever coin that you favor, but do understand, and hopefully I hope people really connect with like minds and kind of build with people that will assist in these trying times ahead, for sure. And
Yeah.
I'm saying that as I'm literally been over here chilling. Nothing has changed about my lifestyle in where I am, the state that I'm in Australia. Nothing has changed about my lifestyle. I've never once had to put on a mask. I've never been asked to put on a mask,
Yeah.
right? I have lost a couple of contracts because I refused to get a flu shot. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, my life has been the same. And I'm saying that that's what America should be, the land of the free, the home of the brave,
Yeah.
who has more resources and creativity than most any other place on the planet. And this is what America has dissolved into. So,
Yeah. Yeah, but it's also just not the powers that be. It's also responsibility of the people to,
Definitely.
and so I don't want to give them a pass either, because there's a lot of people that support the powers that be, and maybe they were manipulated, or maybe they were already in line with that type of thinking. I don't know. It could be a little bit of both, but I think people need to be held accountable and responsible. And I think that's one thing Hex really does is, you're the network, you make your own coins, you end your own, you do your end stake, you do, you stake your own coins, you do everything, and no one else is in charge. Funding Jim. Gary, what's going on, man?
Yeah,
Um,
it's funny. Let me just real quick. I
yeah,
actually been thinking about funding Jim this entire time. I just couldn't
yeah.
think of his name, but I've paid a lot of attention to you funding Jim, bro. I love your stuff. You know what I'm saying? And he's what I was thinking about when I'm talking about these focus groups. You know, and like people who really have like a clear vision as to what this product is and all the possibilities. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead, but shout
No,
out
no.
funding Jim.
I agree with you. Gary has a lot of good, he goes on these long-winded rants too, but he has a lot of good stuff.
Yeah,
He has a lot of good things to say, and I always listen in. So, very much appreciated. He actually has, he's started another Telegram channel for the people that are more dedicated to developing businesses and marketing around Hex. And so it's called Hexflex. Yeah. You'll have to go to his channel to find
yeah,
it. But it's called Hexflex, and there's a lot of good people in there. And you have to be a public figure, which you are. You have to show your face, things like that. So you actually have to want to
yeah,
be, known about this stuff. And so,
definitely.
but he is working on the things that, like I was thinking, hey, wouldn't it be great for something like this? And then here he just comes up with this idea. So, uh, Gary's got a lot of that. But yeah. I don't know if I have much more to say, but I absolutely loved. Yeah, Kareem, thank you. This is, man, I'm so glad that we connected and we were able to have this meeting, because I think we have a lot of like-minded ideas, and this is probably one of my more passionate talks that I've had with anyone. So I'd like to have you on my stream at some point as well.
Yeah,
That'll
of
help
course.
you grow your stuff too. So think about
Definitely.
that if you like. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no,
all.
definitely. That's an easy one, yo. We gotta keep this going. And shout out to everybody in the chat as well. As I was saying, this is literally my maiden voyage doing any type of broadcasting related to cryptocurrency. And it's only fitting that I did it with my boy Deep, and it's only fitting that we represent Hex. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really appreciative to meet all of you guys. Karim, I see you. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, like I said, RG3 and all those boys, Kinetics and the whole crew, anybody that I'm forgetting, because I am.
Yeah,
You guys don't know this, but I'm hearing you. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, like being a rookie in all of this and not really, knowing my way around in the beginning, it was very good to have people that I could actually just tune into and really hear some quality of, like, again, like if I want to get into heavy analytics, I'm dealing with Deep or Silver, a couple other cats that are into that. You know what I'm saying? If I want to get into lifestyle and, just what the guts of Hex is about, I'm definitely looking at all these other guys that have shown me all these different ways to deal with this Hex scenario and to make sure that I'm doing it properly. So again, shout out to everybody. I know we got a little heavy towards the end, but we definitely love this product. And one thing that me and Yazdeep seem to have in common, we have a love for balance and equity and reciprocity, right? So again, Hex is the perfect marriage, for that. And I really look forward to building with all you guys, like, not just through the World Wide Web. I really want to link up.
oh, I want to. Yeah, yeah. As soon as this stuff's done, like I don't know. I'm not trying to take this vaccine or nothing, but if there's a way for me to get out there, like I'd like to come visit. And there's a lot of other places I'd like to go. So yeah, man. I want to meet people in person, because I think that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, no doubt. But you guys just linked up, right, a couple of weeks ago. Once you guys
Yeah,
RG and
funny story. It wasn't really designed to be like a Hex meetup. It was I was actually catching a flight to go back home for the holidays,
true.
and I reached out to Vince, and we are like, hey, let's get some food before I have my flight. And then I was like, hey, I know RG's kind of nearby. Let me hit him up too. And then we were like, hey, well, RG's coming. And then I was on a stream with Dollar Cost. I was like, hey, I know you're somewhere in California, and he was nowhere nearby, but he made the trip down too. And
Yeah.
then we had Brizology. He's somewhat local, and so like it just became a meetup, but it wasn't designed that way. It was just because I had a flight to catch.
Yeah, that's lovely, bro. I love
Yo,
that.
Kareem, thank you, bro.
spontaneous spur of the moment hook up. That's the best.
It worked out great because then I started seeing all these posts on Twitter. I'm like, what's going on? What is this Hex meetup or a Hex conference or something? And I see my photo in there, and I'm like, oh, that's. I thought we were
Right.
just sending me off on my flight.
True. That's
Yep.
what's up. Cool. Well, yeah, brother, we'll have to do this again for sure, man. I appreciate you going on my maiden voyage with me.
Yeah.
And shout out to the Hexicans and Hex Nation all day. Love the energy, love the support, and yeah, yo, we're gonna keep this moving for sure.
Yeah. Let's try to do this before Christmas. I think it'd be a good time because the type of vibe we have, the type of things that we like to talk about, I think it's really good for the holiday season to give a little bit of hope and inspiration. Just not just for Hex, but just
Yeah, in general.
what's the next
Yeah.
after Hex kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to do that again.
Definitely, for sure. No doubt. Well, I guess we will bid adieu for this inaugural session of Black Dot Chronicles and the psychology of Hex. Yeah, it's deep, bro. It's been real. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to get on this next session with you for sure.
Absolutely.
All right,
All
Hex
right.
Nation.
See you, everybody.
All right, take it light, Hex Nation, Hexicans. We rule. Out.